What if the solution to your high blood pressure has been sitting in your kitchen this entire time? And nobody told you? Not because it doesn't work, because there's no patent on a beetroot, no profit margin on a handful of hibiscus flowers. Here's the reality. 1 in 3 adults has high blood pressure. Millions are on medication with side effects, including dizziness, fatigue, and kidney damage. And right now, there are natural remedies with actual clinical trials behind them, tested on real people, published in real journals, quietly outperforming some of the most prescribed drugs on the market. Today, you're getting 7 of them, every single one backed by a clinical study. Not folklore, not opinion. Peer-reviewed science. Hit subscribe. We do this every week. Real nutrition science, plain English. Now stay with me. Because number 5 was tested in a trial where participants dropped their blood pressure in just 4 weeks, without changing anything else. And number 7 was put head-to-head against a leading prescription drug by pharmaceutical researchers, and what happened next will change how you think about food forever. Most of these are already in your house, completely underestimated. Let's go. Beetroot. The blood pressure fix hiding in your vegetable drawer. Most people walk straight past it in the supermarket. That's a mistake. A study published in the journal Hypertension found that 1 cup of beetroot juice daily dropped blood pressure by 8 points systolic within 24 hours. Some first-line blood pressure medications produce a drop of 9 to 10 points. Beetroot is in that conversation. Here's why it works. Beetroot is packed with dietary nitrates. Your body converts them into nitric oxide. Nitric oxide tells your blood vessels to relax and widen. Less resistance, lower pressure. Simple mechanism, powerful result. Eastern European folk medicine used beetroot specifically for circulation and heart complaints for centuries. Russian and Polish healers knew it was doing something. They just couldn't explain the chemistry yet. Beetroot got ignored because it's cheap. You can't patent it. You can't charge £40 a bottle for it. But the research doesn't care about profit margins. Think of it as blood pressure medication. Hibiscus tea, the flower that beat a prescription drug in a clinical trial. This one stops people cold. A clinical trial published in the Journal of Human Hypertension put hibiscus tea directly against captopril, a commonly prescribed blood pressure medication, head-to-head, 4 weeks. Hibiscus dropped systolic blood pressure by 11.58 points. Captopril managed 10.75. The flower one. Hibiscus contains compounds called anthocyanins that work similarly to ACE inhibitor drugs, relaxing blood vessels, reducing the workload on your heart. A meta-analysis of 5 separate trials confirmed the effect is real and consistent. West African communities, Egyptian households, Caribbean kitchens, they've been drinking hibiscus tea for generations. In Mexico, it's agua de Jamaica. In Egypt, cacao. Every culture with access to this plant figured out it was doing something powerful for the heart. Long before clinical trials existed, it got dismissed in Western medicine because it's a tea. Too simple, too casual. Surely something that effectively needs a blister pack. It doesn't. Think of it as heart medication disguised as something you'd order at a cafe. Garlic. 5,000 years of civilizations accidentally running the same clinical trial. Ancient Egyptians gave it to pyramid builders. Hippocrates prescribed it. For most of recorded history, Western medicine called it folklore. Then the studies arrived. A meta-analysis in the Journal of Nutrition reviewed 12 clinical trials. Raw garlic reduced systolic blood pressure by 8.3 points and diastolic by 5. 5 in people with high blood pressure. The Cochrane database confirmed it. Real effect, consistent, clinically meaningful. The mechanism is a compound called allicin, released when you crush or chop raw garlic. Allicin triggers nitric oxide production, relaxing blood vessel walls and reducing arterial stiffness simultaneously. The practical side is almost embarrassingly simple. Raw garlic, crushed into food. That's it. 5,000 years of civilizations kept reaching the same conclusion. The old wives were right. They just didn't have journal access. Think of it as the oldest clinical trial in human history, run across every continent, returning the same result every single time. Magnesium-rich foods, the minerals 75% of people are deficient in. And nobody's checking. This one should alarm you. Studies suggest up to 75% of people in Western countries aren't getting enough magnesium from food. And magnesium is one of the most critical minerals for blood pressure regulation your body has. A meta-analysis in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition examined 34 trials across more than 2,000 participants. Higher magnesium intake produced significant reductions in both systolic and diastolic blood pressure, strongest effects in people who were already deficient, which is most of us. Magnesium acts like a natural calcium channel blocker. Calcium channel blockers are a class of prescription blood pressure drug. Magnesium does the same thing naturally, regulating calcium flow into the blood vessel muscle cells. Vessels relax, pressure drops. You'll find it in dark leafy greens, pumpkin seeds, dark chocolate, almonds and black beans. Real food. No prescription required. Magnesium got overlooked because you can't patent a mineral. The conversation moved toward drugs, while this fundamental deficiency quietly went unaddressed in millions of people. Think of it as the missing piece in your blood pressure puzzle that nobody thought to check. Olive leaf tea, the part of the olive tree everyone forgot. Everyone talks about olive oil. Nobody talks about the leaves. That's a significant oversight. A randomized controlled trial published in Phytomedicine put olive leaf extract, consumed as a tea, against captopril. 8 weeks. Olive leaf dropped systolic blood pressure by 11.5 points and diastolic by 4.8. Statistically comparable to the drug. The active compound is oleuropein. It relaxes blood vessel walls, reduces arterial inflammation, and inhibits the same enzyme ACE inhibitor drugs target. One natural compound. 3 mechanisms working simultaneously. Greek, Egyptian, and Levantine cultures made olive leaf tea for centuries, specifically for heart and circulation. The oil got famous because it was commercially scalable. The leaf stayed in the background, doing quiet, consistent work. It got overlooked because olive oil had better marketing. Think of it as the part of the olive tree that the health industry forgot to bottle, until the clinical trials made it impossible to ignore. Potassium-rich foods. The other dial on the blood pressure control panel nobody mentioned. You've been told salt raises blood pressure. That's true. But here's what almost nobody tells you. The real issue isn't sodium alone. It's the ratio of sodium to potassium in your body. Your kidneys use potassium to flush excess sodium from your bloodstream. When potassium is low and sodium is high, your kidneys hold fluid. Blood volume rises. Pressure climbs. When potassium is adequate, your kidneys do their job. Pressure falls naturally. A major analysis in the British Medical Journal reviewed data from over 128,000 people across 33 trials. Increasing dietary potassium significantly reduced both systolic and diastolic blood pressure. Strongest effects in people eating a high sodium diet, which describes most people in the modern world. The WHO recommends 500 milligrams of potassium daily. The average person gets barely half that. Forget bananas. Sweet potatoes, white beans, spinach, and avocados contain far more potassium per serving. 1 cup of cooked white beans delivers over 1,000 milligrams. 1 baked sweet potato, nearly 900. Potassium got pushed out of the conversation because the sodium story was simpler to sell. Cut salt. Done. But cutting salt without raising potassium solves only half the problem. Think of it as the other dial on the blood pressure control panel. The one your doctor probably never mentioned existed. Fatty fish and omega-3 foods. The anti-inflammatory your arteries have been asking for. And here we are. Number 7. The one that, when researchers published their findings, quietly attracted serious pharmaceutical interest. And what happened next will change how you think about food. Your arteries are not passive pipes. They are living tissue that responds to inflammation every single day. When they become chronically inflamed, which happens on most modern diets, they stiffen. Stiff arteries mean higher pressure. It is mechanical. It is unavoidable. Fatty fish, walnuts, flax seeds, sardines. These foods are loaded with omega-3 fatty acids, among the most powerful natural anti-inflammatory compounds ever studied. A meta-analysis in the American Journal of Hypertension reviewed 70 randomized controlled trials. 70. The verdict was unambiguous. Eating omega-3 rich foods produced meaningful reductions in both systolic and diastolic blood pressure. Strongest effects in people already hypertensive, exactly the people who need results most. Omega-3s reduce inflammation inside arterial walls, improve vessel flexibility, lower blood viscosity so your heart works less hard, and trigger compounds that actively switch off inflammatory processes already underway. Multiple problems. One food group. Simultaneously addressed. Now here's the part that explains the pharmaceutical interest. When researchers identified exactly which compounds in fatty fish were producing these effects, drug companies began attempting to isolate and synthesize them into a patentable molecule. Billions were spent. Some synthetic products made it to market. But the trials quietly confirmed something along the way. The whole food, the actual fish, the actual walnuts, the actual flax seeds, produced comparable results. Without the processing, without the patent, without the price tag, coastal populations eating fatty fish multiple times weekly have shown dramatically lower cardiovascular disease rates for generations. Japanese fishing communities, Greenlandic Inuit, Mediterranean coastal villages. The pattern appeared in the data for decades. Now we know why, and the answer was never a pill. It was always the fish. Think of it as the food your arteries were designed to run on, that the modern food supply quietly removed, while cardiovascular disease rates climbed in perfect parallel. The data connected those two lines a long time ago. Most people just weren't shown the graph. If you made it here, here's what you now know that most people don't. High blood pressure is not a life sentence managed only by prescription. There is a serious, peer-reviewed body of evidence showing that specific natural foods, beetroot, hibiscus tea, raw garlic, magnesium-rich foods, olive leaf tea, potassium-rich foods, and fatty fish can move the needle on blood pressure in ways that are clinically meaningful. Not marginal, not placebo, measurable, replicable, and in several cases, directly comparable to medication in head-to-head trials. This is not anti-medicine. Talk to your doctor. Don't stop medication without that conversation. But walk into that conversation knowing what the research actually says. because that knowledge belongs to you. Smash the like button if this gave you something real. 1 second. It puts this information in front of the people who need it most. Drop a comment. Which remedy hit hardest? Was it hibiscus beating a prescription drug? The potassium dial nobody mentioned. The 70 clinical trials behind a food your grandparents ate every week without knowing they were protecting their heart? Tell me, I read every single one. Subscribe and hit the notification bell. Every week, Real Science, plain English, zero fluff. Because here's the truth this entire video has been building toward. The most powerful pharmacy on the planet doesn't have a counter. It doesn't need a prescription. It doesn't have a side effects leaflet. Sometimes it's a cup of red tea. Sometimes it's a clove of garlic. Sometimes it's the fish your great-grandmother cooked every Friday, without knowing she was protecting her heart. The food got there first. Science is just finally catching up.